On tonight's edition of The Overtime, transitioning into the winter means that high school basketball season is underway. We will talk about both Flag and Coconino High as they have some important games coming up. Now moving on to the collegiate ranks, NAU men's basketball has had a busy week. We'll break down their games. And finally, NAU volleyball has earned the title of conference champions. Now they are on to the NCAA tournament. We will recap their season and expectations for the tournament. All this coming up next on The Overtime. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this edition of The Overtime, Northern Arizona's only sports show. I'm your host, Zach Warhack, and we have a packed show for you tonight with lots of local sports action. And joining me is sports reporter Sam Oceans. Sam, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Zach. It's great to be here. We have a lot to talk about, so why don't we get started?
Absolutely. I love the enthusiasm. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and hit our first topic of the night. Coconino Boys Basketball kicked their season off with a thriller against Page, where they ended up losing in a nail-biter by a score of 42-41. Now, earlier this week, Coconino bounced back against a tough Bradshaw Mountain team. Sam, what do the Panthers need to do in order to keep this win streak going and have a successful season?
One thing the Panthers need to work on is their chemistry. They are a young team and need to establish how they can successfully play as a unit. Coconino needs seniors Vincent Figueroa and James Hampshire to step up and take the reins as leaders for this Panthers team. Figueroa scored 9 points per game last year and looks to become the Panthers' biggest offensive asset. The Panthers will also need the 6'11" Hampshire to step up and improve on his 3.5 rebounds a game from last season if they want to be successful. The Panthers will need to continue to outscore their opponents, which they've done so far in this young season.
Yeah, Sam, I couldn't agree more with you. Coconino is such a young team, and they have a lot to learn. I feel as the season progresses, this team will just get better and better. The Panthers have all the pieces to the puzzle, but now they just need to learn how to execute. Coconino has all the scoring threats necessary with solid three-point shooters and a presence in the post. Once the Panthers pick up a few wins here and streak them together, I believe they'll keep rolling. Now moving on to the other side of the city, Flagstaff Eagles basketball has started their season just the way that I expected. A dominating performance in which they beat Mingus High by a score of 59-37. Sam, what will the Eagles need to do in order to continue dominating games throughout the season?
This Eagles team is living on the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Flagstaff went undefeated in sectional play last year and had an overall record of 23-5. The key for the Eagles is to continue to play solid defense and dominate on offense. The Eagles have only allowed their opponents to score 85 points, and Flagstaff has scored 123 of their own. So not only do the Eagles have a solid defense, their offense repeatedly pummels the opponent's defenses. One very important thing that the Eagles have is very tight chemistry. Flagstaff retained almost all of their players from last season, and the offensive tandem of Kaleb, Sandoval, and Tiffany continues to be a nightmare for their opponents.
Yeah, Sam, I absolutely agree with you on this one. Last season, the Eagles were a dominating force, and they returned their starting five for this season, so they should continue their winning ways. Now, the Eagles will definitely be looking for another deep playoff run this season, as they made it pretty far last year, but were knocked out by a tough Gilbert Christian team, and as we know, Gilbert Christian went on to win the championship. Now, staying on the hard court but moving on to the collegiate ranks, the NAU men's basketball team has struggled early this season. What needs to change for the Lumberjacks in order to bounce back and string some wins together?
Zach, like you said, the Lumberjacks have struggled so far this season, but their schedule is starting to get easier, and they have all the tools they need to succeed. NAU's record is currently 2-4. The Jacks' schedule will gradually get easier as the season progresses. The real key for the Jacks is going to be Junior Kris Yanku, who ranked #1 in free throws made last year and is the most dangerous offensive piece for NAU. Once Yanku gets hot and the Jacks solidify their defense, they will see results.
Now, you make a great point there, Sam. The Lumberjacks are playing with a huge chip on their shoulder this season as the injury bug has struck. Senior Jordyn Martin will miss the rest of the season with a broken foot. Now, this is a huge blow to the Lumberjacks as Martin was named a Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year last season. Now, with Martin gone, the Lumberjacks have been struggling so far this season, not only defensively, but also with putting up points in the paint. Now, finally, let's move on to the biggest story inside NAU athletics, NAU volleyball. These ladies have been crowned with the title of Big Sky Conference champions and are now moving on to the NCAA tournament. Sam, what do you have to say about these ladies' season, and what are your expectations for them in the NCAA tournament?
Zach, this is perhaps the greatest volleyball team in NAU history. They have been unstoppable. Heading into the NCAA tournament, I have high expectations for the Lady Jacks, seeing as they demolished their opponents in the Big Sky Conference tournament. Nobody had an answer for the Jacks, who shut out all 3 schools they faced in the Big Sky tournament. However, the Jacks will have a tough road in the NCAA tournament. NAU will begin the tournament against the University of San Diego, who went 21-9 in the regular season. If the Jacks can beat San Diego, they will more than likely play number 1 seeded USC, who have only lost 2 matches all season.
Yeah, absolutely. USC will be a tough one if they make it that far. Now, this team has been so exciting to watch all season long, and I don't expect them to stop winning as NCAA tournament play begins. Everyone thinks that Arizona volleyball teams in the Pac-12 are the powerhouses, but let me hit you with the facts here. The University of Arizona is ranked 46th, Arizona State University is ranked 39th, and Northern Arizona University comes in at 33rd according to NCAA polls, which means that they are the number 1 team in Arizona. Now, key players in the tournament for the Lumberjacks that I guarantee will perform above and beyond are Janae Vanderploeg, Peyton Bach, Addie Lofstedt, and Stacia Williams, who always impress on the court, and this trend will continue for them in tournament play. Now, a name we haven't mentioned much all year is junior setter Jensen Barton. Barton has been phenomenal all season, and when you look at it, she sets up every kill with the perfect set, and I expect nothing less than perfection from her in the NCAA tournament. Now, coming up after the break, Cody Cameron has the top 4 plays of the fall season. You are not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have a nice little recap of the fall sports season with Cody Cameron. Check it out.
Thank you, Zach. Now, as we transition into the winter season of sports, I want to stop and take a look at the 4 best sports moments that happened the fall season right here in Flagstaff. Starting off with the number 4 moment, we begin on the soccer field with NEU's last home game against Weber State. Down 1-0 with only a few minutes left in the match, NEU kept their playoff hopes alive with a beautiful strike from Emily Waddle, sending the game into overtime. Now, 4 minutes into overtime, senior Nicole Sherwin with a beautiful pass down the field to senior Tori Brawley, and the senior goes top shelf to clinch the victory for NAU. This was one of the most exciting finishes I've ever seen. On to number 3, we start with the best high school football rivalry in Flagstaff, the annual matchup featuring the Eagles from Flag High and the Panthers from Coconino. This matchup did not disappoint as the high-powered offense of Coconino struck first with a beautiful pass from Crystal DeBars to Arthur Cheat. But it was all Flagstaff in this one as the Eagles scored 33 unanswered points. Eagles quarterback Christian Singleton had one heck of a game, finishing the game 6 of 9 passing for 153 yards and 3 total touchdowns. At number 2, we move to the high school volleyball courts where the Flagstaff Lady Eagles had an incredible season. Led by their senior captain, Courtney Leffel, the Lady Eagles soared to a 32-14 record. The Eagles dominated in the state playoffs, sweeping their very first 2 opponents 6-0. Leffel was named Flagstaff Fall Athlete of the Year and will be headed to Arizona State to play for the Sun Devils next season. And taking our top fall sports moment of the year goes to the NEU women's volleyball team. The Lady Jacks swept all 3 opponents in the Big Sky Conference playoffs, crowning them conference champs and grabbing them a spot in the NCAA volleyball tournament. Head coach Ken Murphy spoke with me after the title game, and this is what he had to say about his team's performance.
You can't put it in words, you know, the amount of work that these kids put in to get to this place and get the success on this level. Just so proud of them, just everything they put into this.
Now that wraps up our top sports moments for the fall season. Back to you, Zach.
Cody, that was awesome. I just got the goosebumps there watching the NAU volleyball team win the championship. Now, Vanessa, you have our weekend sports preview. How's it looking?
Yes, Zach. This weekend looks packed, and I'll tell you more after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Vanessa Savell. We got a lot coming up this weekend. Starting out on the hardwood, Coconino girls are taking on Bradshaw Mountain later tonight at 7. Moving up to college, the NAU men are looking for a big win on the road against CSU Bakersfield. That game will be tonight at 8 p.m. The NAU women are taking on UC Irvine tonight. That game also tips off at 8. Finally, we have the NAU Ice Jacks. The Division II team will take on San Diego State Friday and Saturday at J. Lively. Puck drops at 8:30 for both of those games. Well, that's all we got this week, so make sure to come and support your local teams. Now back to you, Zach.
Hey, thanks so much, Vanessa. I'm really excited for all of these games this weekend. And thank you again to Vanessa and Sam for joining me tonight, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Now be sure you check out all the weekend's games and come and check us out next Friday at 6:15 for another edition of The Overtime.